Welcome to the FUSE Life podcast. We are at episode 139, FUSE Life. Every area of our life fused with heaven, right? Heaven flowing in and through you and me in every area of our life. So what does heaven look like? Not just in your spiritual life, but in your soul, your mind, your will, your emotions. What does heaven look like in your body? What does heaven look like in your heart? What does heaven look like in your finances, in your purpose, in your relationships? FUSE Life, we are about heaven being involved in everything. Today's episode, I'm talking to you about abundance and accessing God's abundance. It's a very important subject because most believers are trapped in this area. You know, I got saved radically in 2008. And I remember in my first 3-4 years getting so many people, especially university students, who found out that I got saved, who would message me and ask me to fund their mission trips. You know, I'd be like, oh, you're going on a missions trip? And they'd be like, yes, can you fund it? Would you support me for a year? You know, and my thinking was, hey, man, I want to go on a missions trip, right? I want to go on a missions trip. Like, you know, but it was like there was always a money shortage. All the testimonies that I kept hearing about money were always around, oh, I had this big bill to pay and God miraculously paid it. Yay. Oh, I was 3 days overdue on this bill and God showed up. So my early thinking around God and finances were, oh, it's hard, but every now and then he pays a bill. He shows up. And then people would say, God is good all the time. But the thinking around money was always that God would just show up in the nick of time, you know? So my early days of understanding God and finances was like that. You get in trouble, God bails you out, right? And a lot of people that I knew were struggling financially. You know, they were just breaking even or broken. There was something broken. Now, for time purposes, I don't have time to go into all of this on this podcast, but I do have a 4-part training. And this is a video that I did in my group mentorship, paid group mentorship. And there are some real nuggets in here that will help you. Okay, so I've put the link in there. It's a free training. That link is in the comments. I'll also put it in the caption. Make sure to check that out. It's 4 parts because it's a long thing. It's nearly an hour and 40 minutes. So there's 4 parts to it. And when you're going through that, it will really help you because I go deeper in that. But tonight, I'm just starting this conversation. How can God, who in heaven has streets made out of gold, be a God who just makes it? He just paid my bills. He just showed up to just save me from the nick of time, you know, in the nick of time. And I'm not saying to you God doesn't do that. I'm saying that that is the lowest element of what he does, right? Bailing you out is the lowest element of what he does. I'm going to give you a quick example, okay? The Israelites leave Egypt. Now, before they leave Egypt, he gets them to go and collect all the gold and all the silver, and they leave Egypt well off, right? They leave Egypt with stuff. But now in the wilderness, they need food, food shows up. They need water, water shows up. And so they have this miraculous provision. And what's happened is, sadly, most Christians think that that kind of miraculous provision is God's best. I'd like to propose to you that that was God with his people in the wilderness, because he's taking them from the wilderness into a promised land. And the promised land thinking is very different to the wilderness, right? So God's showing up miraculously with some food when you need it, water when you need it, things when you need it, was the journey, the wilderness to a promised land. And that was a land flowing with milk and honey. That was a land of abundance. That was a land, the milk and honey. You never get milk on its own or honey on its own. You look after cows and they produce milk. You look after bees and they give you honey. So it was a new ecosystem. It was a new way of thinking that God was taking them into. From slaves, he couldn't just take them from slaves to landowner. He had to change their way of thinking. So in the wilderness, we learn to rely on God. We learn to rely on his provision, but he's taking us somewhere. We're not supposed to live in the wilderness. Our thinking is supposed to mature into becoming landowners, into becoming those that will look after cows and look after bees and have milk and honey. So in this time, I talked to some of my friends, talked to pastors. It was really interesting hearing thoughts around money. So I just want in this episode to open your mind up to the fact that God has so much more for you. And he has an abundance in the inheritance that he has for you that you can access today. Now, in that free training, which you can check out, I go through Matthew chapter 6. And I start at verse 24, which talks about your eye, how you view things, all the way down to Matthew 6:33, which everybody quotes. Seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. It doesn't work just like that, right? This is not just like a wand. There is an understanding that has to happen. And so I go through that in the free training. Make sure to grab that. But I'm just opening your mind tonight to the fact that God is not budget, right? So there were three things that I wanted to hit on. Number one, I was going to hit on why are many believers broke or breaking even? It is because we have a wrong understanding of God. We have weird theology. You know, I'd get people say to me, Joseph, you talk about abundance. Well, you go and tell people in China about that. How will their gospel work in China? You think God can't be abundant in China? Right? It's so crazy. Like, you think God can't be abundant in India? Now, maybe the abundance looks different, but are you telling me that people in China have no hope in this life and they'll only have abundance after they pass away? That's how most people think. Like, oh, you go talk about abundance in Africa. Yeah, I will. I will. We serve a God who can bypass natural law, who can bypass corrupt politicians. He can bypass all of these things to bring abundance into your life. So what is the variable that matters? Your faith. Your faith. Are you willing to receive? That is the only variable that matters. And most believers don't even know if they're allowed to have abundance. So the enemy's done such a good job at wrecking our mindset, our theology around money to make people so scared of abundance. Why are most believers just breaking even or are broke? Because we're taught the wrong things. We are taught that my God shall supply all my needs means that you get the third best of everything, that you get barely enough. We are taught that. We are taught wrong things around abundance. This is why we've been stuck. So many been stuck. So that's the first thing I want to hit is we need to change our thinking. So how come God, who's willing to give his son, the greatest thing to him, he gives his son for you and me. Why would he hold back anything else? Right, so a couple of things I want to hit here. My God shall supply all my need. You understand that statement, all my needs, right? Well, you know, in Matthew 6, where he goes into verse 30, 31, 32, before seek first the kingdom, he talks about, you know, praying for things that you need. Don't worry about those things because pagans do that. But God already knows everything that you need. Well, what is need? Now, if you were born in poverty and you lived in a home with a dad and a mom, 3 children, and this dad is working all day making $1 an hour, and all you get to eat at night is a bowl of rice that you share between a family of 5, and maybe some chicken, maybe 100 grams of chicken if you're lucky, between a family of 5. And I say to you, my God shall supply all your need. You're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a bowl of rice, and I'm going to get some chicken, maybe 100 grams. But if you are the child of a king, a sultan in the Middle East, if you are the child of a royal family, and I say to you, my God will meet all your needs are totally different. Your understanding of your needs are totally different. And so when I say to you, God's going to meet your need, you're not thinking maybe a bowl of rice. Now you're thinking a 3-course meal. Same God who can supply the need. But we've been taught to reduce him to our understanding of need. Do you know how scared people are of abundance? How scared people are of wealth? It's like our immaturity manifests in our inability to understand governance and stewardship of our stuff. So why are we broke? We've been taught wrong things. We believe wrong things about our Father. And I just want to open your mind up to that. Go through the free training. It is going to help you. Okay, but I'm just opening your mind up. Right? What do you think about God? You think that he barely has enough? And if he has everything, why isn't he giving it to you? Good question, right? It's a good question for you to ponder. Well, God, if you own the cattle on 1,000 hills, you know how many people I hear quote that? And they're barely making it in life. Well, why isn't he giving you access? It's a good question, right? And we're going to go through some of that in the third point. So what is your thinking around God? And what is your definition of need? Does that need to change now? Does that need to change now, right? What is the access that God's wanting to give you into your inheritance, into the abundance? And when I say abundance, can I please clarify? I don't just mean money, but money is a big one. Why is it a big one? Because the God of this world has done a great job at making you bust your butt every week for money. He has built a whole system around money. He has built nations around money so that every person will bust their butt to get money so that they can do something with their life. Do you understand? It's like a great tool that the enemy has used to bind people. You know, I meet so many believers. I'm like, man, you should have so much money because you're so generous. You would do amazing things with your money. You would do great things. But how come there's no money? Because we've not understood God's understanding of finances, wealth, abundance. Our thinking needs to shift. If you're with me, let me know in the comment box. Let me know. Are you with me? Am I making sense? Some questions for you to think about, okay? If heaven is made, the streets are made out of gold in heaven, then what's going on here? And why is there a gap between you and that? The second point I want to hit quickly is that Mammon has sought to be your God. Mammon has become so many people's God right now. You know, the concept of financial freedom, the concept of you make decisions based on your bank account, the concept of money is deciding what you do and don't do in your life. You know, all of that comes under Mammon. That is all Mammon. Mammon is seeking to be your God. In Matthew 6, Jesus says there are two things here. There's God and Mammon. There's no other. God and Mammon. And Mammon's trying to be your God. You will either love one and hate the other. You will be loyal to one and despise the other. Do you understand that Mammon is seeking to be everybody's God? And a lot of people, they love Jesus, but they serve Mammon. They are more intentional about how they're going to earn money. They are more loyal to their jobs. They are more loyal to their bank account. They move more to earn money than with God. There are many people who love Jesus and serve Mammon. And so Mammon is constantly seeking to be your master. And what is Mammon? Mammon is not just money. Mammon is everything that comes with money. The freedom, the power, the ability to make decisions, the choices, right? The fame, the glory. Financial freedom, by the way, is something that Mammon pushes. And so there are people pursuing and chasing financial freedom, hoping that the amount of their finances and their bank account is going to set them free. Can I tell you that Jesus already set you free? And whom the Son sets free is free indeed. There is no such thing as financial freedom. Now, yes, you're going to move into overflow and multiplication with your wealth. You're going to grow into all of that. Yeah. But if you think finances are going to set you free, you're playing the wrong game, my friend. You are still playing with Mammon. And there are people that pursue finances hoping, oh, in 10 years, I'll make this much money and then I'll be free. Sorry to say that, my friend. You will not be free. Because this world and Mammon is playing such games like in the last 4 years we have seen crypto all being manipulated, currencies manipulated, the printing of fiat currency manipulated. Everything's manipulated. So when you play with Mammon, you're playing by Mammon's rules. You become a slave to whatever Mammon wants to do. And Mammon gets to prey on the fallen nature of man, self-centeredness and greed. And so Mammon is working through all these people that are happy to be greedy, happy to get more. They want more. They need more. So when you play this game and Mammon is deciding what happens for you, it's a very dangerous game because tomorrow everything could be shut. What is your trust in? Who is your God? What game are you playing? You see what I'm saying? Like people don't realize it's very subtle, but Mammon is trying to be everyone's God. And there are a lot of believers who love Jesus, but they serve Mammon. Is that you? If that is you, you might want to start to go on a journey of divorcing that relationship, cutting off that relationship with Mammon. The third point, which I want to end on, is how do you access this? How do you access this? So as I was going through this journey, I started to be like, Lord, surely your best is not me broke, me and my wife barely struggling. Surely this is not your best. Surely there is more to this. Surely you have a better plan. And I began this journey of asking Father to father me in my finance journey. And so this is the first thing I want to say to you is, will you allow God to father you in your finance journey? So you might want to write this down. Father, I'm going to give you full permission to father me in my finance journey. It's the first thing, that you bring him into the picture, not principles. You know, I know a lot of people who have all the kingdom principles. They're still orphans. They're still orphans at heart because they just work the principle. Now, if you watched one of my previous podcasts, you'd hear me talk about applying principles. Any orphan, any unbeliever can apply principles and get a result. But the results you'll keep getting are external. You can't get an internal result from an external principle. You can't get an internal shift, internal result from an external principle. So there are people that work the principles, but internally there is no peace, no true freedom. I know people that have millions of dollars and they don't have true freedom. They're still chasing the next zero. More fame, more glory, more power. That's not a game you and I were called to play, my friend. That's not what God has for you. He has something way better for you, and it can begin right now. So as I pursued this journey, he pulled me into this understanding of, son, will you trust me as your good father? So I said, yes, Lord, I trust you. And me and my wife went through the season where he removed everything that was not from him. And it was really scary. And in my heart, there were many times I said to him, don't, because it was revealing to me, exposing my own heart, that I didn't actually trust that God is a good father. I would like to propose to you that there are many people that don't believe he's a good father. They don't believe he's that good. So even though they say, yeah, Lord, I trust you, they add him on like extra cheese for $1, like fries and Coke. They add him on like a side dish. I would like to propose to you that you were not created to have God as a side dish. Now, you could do that. You have that free will, but that is not your original design. That is not your original intent. So when you start to look at this from a place of he's my father and I'm his child and he's raising me up into my inheritance, it changes everything. Everything. So how do you access God's abundance? You mature into it. You don't work for it. You don't toil for it. You're redeemed from the curse. You're redeemed from Genesis 3. You don't bust your butt like everybody else. You don't hustle and grind. You don't squeeze every minute of every day trying to earn money. You're set free from that. You mature as a child of God into your inheritance. So again, I'm just beginning the conversation here, but the proper training, there's a free training. You'll see the link in the caption and you'll see the link in the comments. Go on there, take that, use it. There's 4 parts to it. I guarantee you it is going to shift your life. I wish someone was there to tell me this earlier. So I heard principles. Oh, you should tithe and then, give and it shall be given back unto you. Pressed down, shaken together. All these principles, sowing and reaping, they work, but they don't deal with the internal turmoil. You can still toil with all these principles. So how do you access? Number 1, you come into your original intent, which is he's your father and you're his child. Number 2, you let him become God of your finances. And that could look like he strips away everything that is not of him. I had to get out of being fueled by mammon, mammon being my God, mammon being my financial system, and shift it to the kingdom of God being that. And as I have matured, I have watched God open my jurisdiction. I have watched God bring me clients. I have watched God take me to nations. I have watched him teach me governance and stewardship and expand my capacity. Because he's maturing me into more and more and more and more. And he wants to do the same for you. Some of you have stayed in this place of broken in this cycle because you won't let him be the God of your bank account. Why don't you change that today? Why don't you pull him in as your father today? Now, you might be scared like I was scared. I was scared. And I said to God, I don't know if I trust you. I don't know if you're that good a father. But I am willing. And I prayed this prayer of, Father, I don't know what this looks like. I am scared, but I am willing to let you be my father in my finances. Now, quickly, I want to touch on something, okay? And by the way, in the training, I go through everything. Go and take that training, man. You might be like, why you keep talking about the training? Because the training works, okay? And the training is something you can go in your own time, your own pace with the Lord. It's going to be awesome. But we look at life and look at children, okay? So now, let's say from 0 to 12 years old, what am I living on? I am living off my parents' pocket money. I am living off my parents' lifestyle. I'm living off my parents providing for me. And then as I become a teenager, 13, 14, 15, I learn how to make some money. I learn how the economy works. I learn things and I grow mature in my governance and my stewardship, and I get access to more. Now imagine if my dad was the king of New Zealand, right, where I'm from right now. If he was the king of New Zealand, when I'm 18, he has more inheritance for me. When I'm 20, he has even more. When I'm 25, as I am maturing and becoming more and more like him, he starts to give me regions. And he hands over Auckland to me, and he hands over Northland to me, or he hands over South Island to me. And he says, here you go, son. You have now grown in your ability to govern. I can give you more. That is how you access the inheritance. This is how you walk in the freedom of God's inheritance. Right? And so some of you may have been like, oh man, I came here for principles. I came here. I'm telling you right now, okay, when you operate just in principles, you're only as good as your last principle that you applied. When you operate out of position, what's your position? You are a son of God. John 1, 12 and 13, he gave you the right to be a child of God. You are a son of God. When you operate out of your position, even when you make mistakes, it doesn't matter because your position is never taken from you. When you operate out of principles, you're only as good as the last one you applied. And you got to keep working for it like an orphan. When you operate from position, your father and you, your relationship has never changed. When you operate from position, it's like the story of the prodigal son, which is actually the story of a good father. Let me quickly remind you, in that story, when the son goes and he wastes all the money, he wastes all the stuff because he thought that the stuff was his inheritance. When he comes back home, his father so quickly runs to him, gives him a kiss, gives him a hug, and he restores his real inheritance. What was his real inheritance? The ring, the robe, the sandals. What is that? His identity, his position, his position. I'd like to submit to you that most believers are broke because they never let their father them. And I want to challenge you right now to let God into this place. And if God fails you, walk away. This is another thing. People crack up when I say this. I'm like, listen, man, if God fails you, he's a liar. And if he's a liar, then why do you want to follow a lying God? Walk away and tell everybody, if God fails you, I will walk away from him. You know, sadly, most people don't give God a chance to show up, right? Because then they would see he never fails. But I've seen a lot of people who never let him in. Will you let him in? Will you let him in? Broke is not your inheritance. There is nothing broke or broken in the kingdom. So this mindset, if you start to shift your understanding, your theology of who our Father is, who you are to him, in him, and what he wants to do through you, you can start to mature into access, into your inheritance, into all the things he has for you, right? So again, that training that I have, please go and take it. It is free. It's a 4-part series. Enjoy the training. Message me after you go through it. I'd love to know what's going on in your journey. Now, the first couple of weeks, when you start letting God in, it gets shaky because everything that's not him is going to fall. But everything that is him can never fall. So when you go through that training, message me, and I'm sure things are going to start opening up for you, okay? I'm going to put that link even in my caption, right? I hope you got something from this quick episode. I love you lots. My prayer is that all of us as children of God will grow up. We will mature in our inheritance, in our understanding of abundance, in our responsibility, in our governance, in what we are doing with him as he works in and through us, that we would all grow up. I'm going to say one last thing. It doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what happened in your past. It doesn't matter what mistakes you made. It doesn't matter how much money you lost. It doesn't matter, right? None of these things matter. Like The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson said, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because God is always making things new. It doesn't matter if you're in a nation that is supposedly poor. God can make things happen from the invisible to the visible. You understand? He's not restricted. So abundance is for everyone, every nation, every tribe, every tongue. Abundance is limited by one thing and one thing only, that is your agreement. Will you agree with the will of your Father? Okay, so I'm praying that you will get that training, enjoy it, move into the next phases. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share this with your friends. Private message me if you got something from this, or let me know in the comments. I hope these episodes are helping you. I'm excited that I'm going to do more and more and more of these episodes. Love you lots, and I will see you on the next one.